Imagine a world where every morning is a chance to face death. Hunting is not a game, but the last resort to avoid becoming someone else's food. Neanderthals, armed with stone tools, fought beasts in close combat, risking their lives for a meal. Every spear thrust was a chance that you wouldn't return. This wasn't just a weapon, it was the last chance for survival in a world where death awaited at every turn. There was no place for the weak in this world. It was either you or them. Welcome to hell, where every encounter is a chance to be torn apart or to survive. Neanderthals did not have bows and arrows, nor did they use complex mechanisms, and iron was a distant dream. Yet despite this, their weapons were deadly. The main and only truly effective tool was a short spear with a sharp stone tip. It wasn't made for long-range attacks, but for deadly close-up strikes when the beast was nearly within reach. This weapon didn't forgive mistakes. Only a precise, almost desperate strike could ensure survival. Hunters often used both hands to put all their force into the blow. The spear tips were made from flint, skillfully sharpened by craftsmen, each strike leaving horrific marks on the animal's body. Sometimes the tips were affixed to wooden shafts using resin and tendons to prevent them from breaking upon impact. The weapons weren't perfect. They were brutal, lacking elegance, but they ensured survival. In addition to spears, Neanderthals used clubs, heavy sticks with thickened ends, which could knock down any animal. These clubs left no chance. A blow to the head, and the animal wouldn't get up. Stone knives were used not only for finishing off the prey, but also for skinning the carcass. The weapons were rough and heavy, but they were vital in their harsh world. Each hunter knew their weapon as if it were their soul. They crafted it, sharpened it, tested it. Without a weapon, a hunter was helpless. In a world where every mistake cost a life, their spear was not just a tool, but a guarantee of survival. To fight a predator with bare hands meant certain death. The weapon was their only ally in this brutal world, where every step could be the last. Hunting for Neanderthals was not just a fight with an animal, but a true survival tactic. Without bows, traps, or other technological innovations, they had to use everything at hand: the terrain, the wind, and the ability to work as a team. Each hunter knew the behavior of animals, could predict their actions, recognize where they would run, how they would react to noise, and where to lure prey into a trap. One of the deadliest methods of hunting was the drive. Several hunters from one side would drive the animal into a pre-prepared trap, such as narrow gorges, steep cliffs, rock piles, or swamps. In these places, the animal would lose speed, stop, and become easy prey. These places were death to many animals. Sometimes piles of bones from various animals were found at cliffs or swamps, indicating mass hunting, possibly pushing prey off heights. These hunters knew how to work as a unit, and there was no need for speech. They used gestures, shouts, and noise. They weren't just a tribe, but a coordinated fighting force that could act in complete harmony. It was a dangerous art requiring discipline and quick reaction, but sometimes they also resorted to ambush. For example, they would approach an animal drinking at a stream. One hunter would distract it, while another would strike from the side. Everything happened lightning fast: strike, and immediately retreat. If the animal didn't fall, there was no chance for a second strike. They had to run quickly. A second chance almost never came. The bigger the prey, the more hunters were needed. A mammoth was not something one could tackle alone. But when the tribe was starving, the risk became justified. The tactic was simple but deadly effective. There was no place for elegance or caution. It all boiled down to survival, where every mistake could be fatal. Once the animal was cornered or sneaked up on, a true fight began. Close combat, almost hand-to-hand. Neanderthals had no means to strike from a distance. They struck the beast in close quarters, to the side, neck, belly, and sometimes even while leaping when the animal was within range. Every movement was life-threatening. Each strike was decisive. But death didn't always come immediately. If the blow wasn't fatal, the animal, often in a frenzy, would retaliate, inflicting counterstrikes. A wild boar could rip open a belly with its sharp tusks, a deer could knock a hunter down with its antlers, and a bison could simply trample them. Broken ribs, pierced skulls, shattered collarbones. These were the marks of brutal battles where not only meat was at stake, but life itself. Every hunter knew that the fight could end for them, not only with injuries, but also with death. The first strike was only the beginning. After the animal was wounded, it had to be finished off. Often, stone knives or clubs were used for this. Dust, shouts, blood, everything happened in chaos, with no gracefulness. There was no time for thinking or caution. Every fight was a chance for survival. If the animal was wounded but fled, the real hunt for it began. Every drop of blood mattered. Sometimes it could take hours, but leaving the prey was not an option. The meat had to be secured at any cost. The hunters pressed on despite pain and fatigue. There were cases where hunters died from their wounds. They were either carried back or left behind if there was no strength to carry them. But no creature could stop the hunt. The battle continued until victory was achieved. Hunting for Neanderthals was a no-error zone. Every outing was a chance not to return, but the understanding that if one didn't go, others would die. It wasn't just a desire to survive, it was a duty, and they went to battle to win, to bring back meat, and to ensure their tribe wouldn't starve. To strike first was their only chance. The hunting practices of Neanderthals are not myths or fiction. Everything we know is backed by archaeological finds. At sites where animal battles once raged, fragments of stone tools, remnants of campfires, and bloodstains that soaked into the earth have been found. These are not just signs of daily life, but the facts of real hunts. In the bones of the animals found, archaeologists discovered spear tips lodged, stone blades deeply embedded in ribs, pelvic bones, skulls. These traces tell us that the strikes were delivered up close, with tremendous force. Even in large animals, there are bones pierced through. This weapon was powerful and showed no mercy. Some sites contain the skeletons of several animals of the same species, which points to mass hunting. Perhaps it was a drive hunt, where animals were thrown off cliffs or chased into a trap. In these places, many bones, hoof prints, and stone marks have been found. This wasn't a coincidence. It was a carefully planned hunting tactic, using the terrain to catch prey. Human skeletons found at these sites show that the price of hunting was high. Fractures, dislocated shoulders, cracks in skulls. These injuries became part of the hunting reality. Some wounds healed, which means Neanderthals survived and kept hunting. Others were fatal. This was the cost of meat, a hunt that brought not only trophies, but also horrific injuries. No myths here, only facts, traces of blows, blood, stone tools, burns. Neanderthals risked their lives every time they went hunting, and archaeology confirms this. The hunting of Neanderthals was not savagery, but a conscious, strategically calculated choice. Without long-range weapons, horses, or nets, they still went hunting. And for them, hunting wasn't just a task, it was a fight, a real fight, where every step was risky. It wasn't just strength, it was courage that had no equal. To approach a beast at close range meant being ready to die. But Neanderthals weren't reckless. They knew exactly what they were doing. Their bodies were built for close combat, strong bones, powerful arms, short but enduring legs. This wasn't an accident. It was the result of long evolution that adapted them to the harshest conditions. The brains of Neanderthals were as developed as ours. This meant that they didn't rely on instinct alone, but carefully planned every move, chose their route, and communicated with each other. Without teamwork, they wouldn't have survived. They knew how to read the landscape, notice signs, and understand animal behavior. This was experience, not just instinctive behavior. And most importantly, they didn't go hunting for fame or adrenaline. It was much more practical and important. For the meat, for the family, to make sure the children didn't die from hunger, to keep the fire burning, and to ensure there would be a chance for life tomorrow. Neanderthal hunting was a form of care, the last hope for survival. Neanderthals disappeared, but their strength, their intelligence, and their will remain within us. We are the descendants of those who survived not because of weapons, but because of spirit. And hunting, it is their legacy, proof that even in the harshest conditions, victory was possible.